Hello, we will discuss today power, semiconductor, and superconductor. So, first of all, power in electric circuits. You see this figure, a circuit where battery is connected. Here is the battery. So, the upper terminal is positive, the lower is negative, and this eye shows the direction of current. It flows from positive terminal to the negative terminal of the battery while circulating in the whole circuit. Here, a circuit element is connected which is unknown. It may be motor, it may be resistor, or it may be something else. So, the positive terminal of the battery is at high potential, while the negative terminal of the battery is at lower potential. When this current flows from positive terminal to the negative terminal of the battery, this is because of the potential difference between the two terminals of the battery. So the battery maintains the potential difference between its terminal as well as in the whole circuit. The potential which appears at positive terminal of the battery, the same potential appears at upper part of this this device, and the negative potential which appears here at the negative terminal of the battery, the same potential appears at the lower part of the this device. In other words, we can say the potential difference which is across these two terminals of the battery, the same potential difference appears across this device. Okay, so here the current, when it flows from point A to the point B of the device, we say that there is a drop in the potential. In other words, the potential decreases because it goes from high potential to the low potential. The question is where that decrease in potential go, in what form it appears. So you know the equation for the current is I is equal to dq by dt. You can write this equation dq is equal to I dt, where dq is the flow of charge, that charge, t is the time at which this charges flow. We also know that the electric potential has a relation with electric potential energy. Du is an electric potential energy. So V is equal to du over dq. We can write this equation du is equal to dq. We just rearrange it, and you can put the value of dq, which is here I dt, just here. You substitute the value of dq I dt in this equation, it becomes I dt V. So what is this du? This du is the change in the electric potential energy when the current flows from point A to the point B. So this change in potential energy, which is of course decrease in potential energy, this is equal to I dt V. Okay. So now just look at the statement. It says the principle of conservation of energy tells us that the decrease in electric potential energy from point A to the point B is accompanied by a transfer of energy to some other form. Very clear? If there is a decrease in electric potential energy, that decrease in electric potential energy should be compensated by some other energy, because this is the law of conservation of energy. So the energy lost in this process, that should appear somewhere else in some other form. So the power P dissociated with that transfer is the rate of transfer du by dt. So this is the rate of transfer of the electric potential energy, and of course there is a power P associated with that. So we write that power as IV. I is the current, V is the electric potential. So this is the rate of electrical energy transfer. Now, if the device connected to the battery is motor, for example, then the motor is connected to a mechanical load, the energy is transferred as work done on the load. Okay, and if the device is storage battery, which is being charged as a result of connection to the battery, to the source battery, then we say that the energy is transferred to stored chemical energy in the storage battery. So if the device is a resistor, we are talking about that device which is connected, which was unknown and which is connected to the circuit, to the battery in the circuit. So then the energy is transferred to internal thermal energy, because what does the resistor do? It heats up, okay, the circuit, and what will happen? It will increase the resistor's temperature. So it means that this is the power associated with that electric potential energy, but that electric potential energy can appear in these three different forms, and that appearance depends upon that what is the device. If the device is battery, it will be appearing in one form. If device is storage battery, then it will be appearing in another form. And if the device is a resistor, the energy will be appearing in another form. Okay, so the unit of power, as you see, 1 volt ampere, because P is equal to IA. I is the current, ampere. Uh, sorry, P is equal to VI. So V is the voltage and I is the current, ampere. So you can write voltage as joule per coulomb and ampere is coulomb per second. So these two will be cancelled out and it will become joule per second. And this is joule per second is a watt. So the unit of power is watt. So it is derived in this way. So we write P is equal to I square R. How? Because P is equal to VI and V is equal to IR. So just put the value of voltage. So this will become P is equal to I square R. And you can substitute the value of I here, which is V by R. It will become V square by R square, and 1 R in the numerator will be cancelled out with the R in the denominator. So we call it this resistive dissipations. So this power is particularly when the device is a resistor. So keep in mind that this equation, or these two equations, which are ultimately same, they shouldn't be confused with the equation P is equal to VI. P is equal to VI is a general equation, okay, in which case the element can be anything. So this is a concept about the power. Now, semiconductors. Perhaps you know about the semiconductors. Let us discuss it here. So you know, semiconductors have a wide range of applications in microelectronics devices. They have been widely used. But if you look at the properties of the semiconductors, and if you just compare the properties of the semiconductors with the metals. So you see copper is a metal, silicon is a semiconductor. And these are electrical properties of these different materials. It is a comparison. Look at the charge carrier density. So in metal it is 8.49 into 10 to the power 28, and in semiconductor it is 1 into 10 to the power 16. So what does it mean, charge carrier density? If here the charge carrier density is greater than the charge carrier density of semiconductors, it means there are more electrons per volume, more free electrons per volume. And in semiconductors, the free electrons are less. Okay. Look at the resistivity, Ohm meter. The resistivity of the copper is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 8, and the resistivity of silicon is 2.5 into 10 to the power 3. So you see, the semiconductor has more resistivity than the copper. It means current can't flow easily in semiconductors. But you will be wondering that if the resistivity is greater here, charge carrier density is less here, and temperature coefficient of resistivity is also less here, it is in minus 70, then why the semiconductors are mostly used in these microelectronic chips while the conductors are not? Okay, you know that the resistivity of copper increases with increasing temperature, that of pure silicon decreases. If you increase the temperature of copper, resistivity increases. But if you increase the temperature of the silicon, the resistivity decreases. So, okay, a decreased resistivity is required for the conduction. Now, how is that? Look, look at this table. These are some material, resistivity is given, and temperature coefficient of resistivity. So these are the material which are metals, typical metals, and these are material which are typical semiconductors. Now, the semiconductor, when it is pure, for example silicon, it is a pure, it has resistivity which is very very large, of course. But what do? We dope it with some other material. It means some other impurities are added here. For example, in case of silicon, when it is doped, when it is n-type, n-type means that pure silicon is doped with phosphorus impurities. If you just add phosphorus impurities to the silicon, then its resistivity decreases. It goes from 10 to the power 3 to 10 to the power minus 4. Okay. Similarly, if you add another type of impurities like p-type, then here you see it comes to 2.8 into 10 to the power minus 3. In this case, in the second case, in the p-type, what is added? Aluminium impurities are added. So it means to increase the resistivity, to reduce the resistivity of the semiconductors, what do? We add some other impurities. Okay. So pure silicon has such a high resistivity that it is effectively an insulator. You look, this resistivity is too much. So it is in insulators. No electrons can flow. There will be no current. So what do? And this not a much direct use in, okay, you can't use the pure silicon in the microelectronic circuits. So what do? We add small amount of impurities. and which this process adding small amount of impurity is called doping. So their resistivity can be reduced as clear from this table. Okay. Now what is going on basically? Look, this is conductor metals. You know, in conductor metals there are free electrons, but there are other electrons which are bound to the atoms. So the free electrons move randomly, and you know the other electrons which are bound to to their respective atom, they don't move freely. But if you apply the electric field to this conductor metal, for example copper, I had explained it in previous lectures that the electric field applies electric force on those conduction electrons, and they start moving in a particular direction. And if the electric field is sufficiently large, the electric field can also ionize other atoms. It means the loosely electrons bound to the respective atoms, they can come out, and they can also be part of of the flow. So it means now more electrons will be flowing, and the resistance will be increased because when more electrons will flow, so there will be collision between the electrons and the atoms, and the resistivity will increase. But what will happen in case of insulator? You know, in case of insulators, the electrons are tightly bound to their respective atoms, and no electrons take part in current. Even if, when you apply the electric field, then the electric field doesn't cause the motion of electrons until the electric field is very large. What happens in case of semiconductor? You know, in semiconductor, the electrons are bound to the atoms, but not very much, is the case in case is the case of insulator. So when when you apply the electric field, those electrons come out of the respective atom, the loosely bound electrons, and they take part in the current. So the current starts, and when you apply the okay, when the electric field is increased, so more electrons come out and the current increases. Okay. Density, sorry, the resistivity, which we have already studied, this equation we have derived. Resistivity is equal to m over E square nt. M is the mass of electron, E is the charge on electron, and n is the number of electrons per volume. And this t is the average time, mean free time between two collisions. Now, this equation, it is valid for both conductors and semiconductors. In a conductor, as we said that n is large because there are more free electrons per volume, and when you apply the electric field, the number of electrons of course increases, but not very much. And of course the electric field produces, you know, thermal energy, which in turns increase the temperature. So the n is very large, but nearly remains constant. What about semiconductors? The increase of resistivity with temperature for metals is due to an increase in the collision rate of the charge carriers. Now, look, The question is why the resistivity increases with temperature. Because when the temperature increases, electrons start moving rapidly, and the collision rate, the collision of the electrons with the atoms, that increases. That rate increases. It means more electrons are colliding with the atoms, and thus T decreases. Okay, because T is the average time between two collisions. Now, if collisions are occurring soon, in less time, then we say that this T decreases. If T decreases, then according to this equation, rho, which is resistivity, increasing. So it means for metals, this resistivity increases with decreasing T. Okay, and why the T decreases? Because of the temperature. Okay, but what happens in case of semiconductors? In semiconductor, n is small because n is the number of electrons, less number of electrons. But when you increase the temperature, what happens? The n increases. It means more electrons are coming out of their respective atoms, and there are more conduction electrons. So with increasing thermal agitation, with increasing temperature, the thermal agitations makes more charge carriers available. It means when you increase the temperature, more electrons are coming out of their respective atoms, and they take part in the current, and as a result, n increases. Now look, when n increases, what about the resistivity? Resistivity will be decreasing. So it means with applying the electric field or with increasing the temperature, in other words, the resistivity decreases. Okay. Now we also said that resistivity decreases by adding impurities to the semiconductors. Why? Because when we add the impurities, there are more electrons, and when there are more electrons, n increases, the resistivity decreases. Now, superconductors. In 1911, there was a Dutch physicist whose name was Cameralen Onnes. He observed that mercury, when you cool down the mercury to 4 Kelvin, its resistivity becomes zero. You see, below 4 Kelvin, the resistivity of the mercury is zero. He observed this phenomena. It is literally zero. It means there is no resistance at all. So he observed that. But then, up to 1986, it was thought that you need very low temperature for some material like mercury, so that it has zero resistance. But in 1986, some new material, ceramic material, were discovered. They become superconducting at considerably higher and thus cheaper to produce temperatures. So these conductors which have zero resistance are called superconductors. So it is a very hot area nowadays. The people are researching on this subject to see that how other materials can be discovered which may be superconductors, and what can we do with the already available superconductors that we make them superconductors at high temperature. And the theory tells us that superconductors can be materialized at high temperatures. Hope this is clear. Thank you very much.